Everyone, welcome to a brand new episode of Women of Community Banking podcast. Today we've got Megan with us from the winter snowland I can see behind. Hi Megan, how are you doing?
I'm doing wonderful. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolute pleasure, Megan. I know that you're really busy, but thank you for taking your time out to do this episode with us. We really appreciate it. To start with, right? Who Megan is, quick introduction. She is a marketing leader in a credit union, TruStone Financial Credit Union, been there for the last almost 4+ years with 25 years experience in marketing for credit unions, right? That's pretty much who Megan is. Obviously, I don't want to steal the thunder, and I would maybe want to ask Megan. Megan, if you want to talk about your journey a bit, both the way how you came to credit unions and how do you like credit unions right now?
Yeah, so as I mentioned in our earlier conversations, I graduated from college, did not want to be pigeonholed into financial marketing. And where am I now 25 years later? Financial marketing. But I drank the Kool-Aid. I went to corporate right after college. But I saw like I needed to sleep at night, right? I needed the corporate life and the financial that I worked for, they were not out for their, and it wasn't members, it was customers, right? And I grew up in a small town in Iowa and we did not have credit unions. So I had no idea what credit unions are about until I took my first job in credit unions. And the minute I started there, I'm like, this people helping people philosophy. And it wasn't until probably my first GAC. And if anybody's gone to the GAC for credit union land, you get inspired and it's empowering, right? To see all of these people come together and they believe in this cause and they truly believe in helping their members. And that's something that has I've never forgotten. And that's why I've never left, which is why, like when I said, I don't want to be pigeonholed into financial marketing. If it wasn't for credit unions, I don't think I would still be in financial marketing. But I have been offered so many opportunities in credit union land and be able to believe in what I'm doing that has made me stay in the credit union industry because they truly believe in the people helping people philosophy.
Absolutely. That was a very good introduction, quick and short introduction. But we are glad, Megan, for what you're doing for the industry. Every single marketer I talk to, from the hindsight, you're helping the industry grow. You're helping the awareness spread that what credit unions are meant for. Right? So I personally want to thank you for whatever you're doing at TruStone. It's phenomenal.
Thank you.
Let's talk about TruStone a bit, right? So I know it's not easy to run a mid-sized to large institution like TruStone in terms of marketing. It's a huge marketing engine that you are managing right now. So how do you define success of marketing at TruStone? What is that North Star?
And it's not even, and this is a great question, but it's not even exactly at TruStone. Marketing in general, right? Especially for a credit union, it's how if the other business units are not relying on you and are not calling you all the time to help them out, you're not doing something right because you need to be their advocate, right? And you need to be helping them meet their goals. So organizational wide, right? Marketing needs to help organizational goals get to their goals. So net membership goals, credit card services, mortgage. We're helping all those people hit their goals. And so if they're not meeting their goals, we need to be changing our strategy, right? But then as a marketer, you have very different benchmarks and very different success stories, right? That we measure from different channels. So as a marketer, you have to look at it from two different windows. You have to look at it from a marketing perspective and those successes, but then you also have to look at from an organizational standpoint that these are the organizational goals. And if we're not hitting those goals, we're not doing our job correctly. And what can we change or what can we pivot, right? I think the biggest thing that I've learned in, as you said, my nearly 25 years is, and I jokingly say this to my team, but I've been doing this 25 years and never have I ever had one day that's the same. And even though you can map out a calendar for 12 months and you're going to say, this is exactly what we're going to do, you're going to pivot day to day, depending on what's going on in the rates, what's going on in the industry, what's like other external factors are contributing. And maybe one day we're doing really, really great in checking and actually diving down to demographic information, right? I think we, as marketers, you have to do a better job of figuring out demographics and figuring out, okay, this market, we're probably going to expect way more of this product than this product. And this group, we're not going to. So I think as marketers, you just have to be agile and be able to pivot, but then also recognize that you're responsible for a lot of the success and you're in it together. So you need to be allies with your other business units and listen and have regular meetings with them to see how they're doing in their goals and their success.
Yeah, that's a very well thought about answer. And I agree to every single point, Megan, that you mentioned. My next question is about change, right? Now, obviously, the way how financial services marketing is happening, it's changing a lot because, I mean, gone are the days of just billboards for sure, because performance marketing is becoming table stakes every single day, I would say. My question is around, so what has, if I have to ask you a change, right? Talk about changes. Because you've been doing this for the last 25 years and you've seen the entire progression from billboards to personalization, if not hyper personalization, or even influencer marketing, right? So, what do you think has changed the most? The way how members used to discover and choose TruStone earlier. Now, what is that has changed now for better?
Well, and I think you've talked about this on your previous podcast, but like fintechs have changed it, right? And just the user experience in general has changed our whole landscape. Like the expectations are not the credit union down the street, right? Or the bank down the street. The expectations of user experience is Apple, right? Like Amazon. And I know I'm doing like trigger terms that everybody uses and throws out, but whatever experiences that are streamlined and users are expected and right, their user and they're engaging and they expect a streamlined experience, that's our expectation, right? So that's kind of how, so from a marketing perspective, right, like we've gone through a lot of different changes from like hyper local personalization, making sure you have engaging messages, and all of that stuff is super important, and actually personas. And because there's so much chatter out there, right, you have to be relevant and engaging. Sure. But then you have this whole other side of marketing, and I've been very blessed with a really great all the places I've worked with, they've had amazing technology teams that really invest in the user experience, which has been absolutely fantastic for me to get a voice in that, to say, hey, this user experience needs to be improved, or we need to invest in this software, or we need to invest in this company. Because, right, credit unions, just in general, people think that we are lacking in our technology. And that really is not the case. Sometimes actually credit unions are ahead of the curve. I worked for a credit union that we were the first in Minnesota to launch mobile deposit. Like, but you wouldn't expect that, right? So I think it's very important for marketing to focus on the user experience, right? That whole technology piece. But then from a marketing perspective, you have to make sure that you're just not blasting the same message to everybody. You have to be engaging and know where they're at in their journey and giving relevant information, but then also delivering that experience. If they do come into the branch, you need to deliver that experience that they're expecting. That's going to be very different than anything else that they have experienced. But if they walked into a retail store, and it's engaging and it's not just order taking, that we're actually the experts and we're going to help you, that's what people are expecting, is that they're coming to us because we are the experts, or they're coming to us because they're expecting a streamlined experience. And so I think you need to be constantly aware of the trends and on top of things. And like I said, I've been blessed with working with fabulous people where I've been able to collaborate on bringing in the correct vendors to make it happen.
Yeah, I understand. So you strongly feel that for build versus buy, you need to have vendors help you, be innovative at times. It's not just building it in-house, but also having innovative people come and help the marketing engine, right?
And exactly, because I think I've been on both sides of it, where if you, right, you could have the right talent and you try to build it in house, but by the time you build it, that trend's already passed and it's
Takes time.
already like another step, right? So you have to be able to evaluate, can we jump in and develop this, and can we do it in a legitimate time frame, or can we just partner with somebody and get this stood up, right? And you have to trust each other, and I think that's the biggest lesson that I've learned in my 25 years coming into different credit unions, right? Because I've been I mean, I'm back at another credit union, but I've been in 4 different credit unions, right? And every time, the biggest thing that I will take away and I will tell other people is when collaboration is such a key piece. And if you're in silos, that's never going to work, right? And so I think that's like I know TruStone, that's one of our core values here is collaboration. And I'm sitting on teams with all these different people, and I've been in other credit unions where that's where those key pieces happen and those key decisions happen, is that you're not just having IT make that decision for the organization. You're having all the stakeholders make that decision.
So Megan, moving to the next question, right? I mean, I want to talk about data because again, the definition of performance marketing is data. So how do you think, what role does data play today in shaping marketing strategies for TruStone?
So data, like the buzzword around here, right? We're actually going through a new MRM conversion, and we keep introducing new softwares, and so it's really key to marketing because we have all of this data accessible, but you have all of these different softwares managing this data, but all these softwares talk to each other. And so that is a real key hurdle and a challenge that I know I have been experienced as the SVP over the years. And I know I've partnered with our IT team, and they've been fabulous on how do we connect all the dots, right? How do we get all these systems to talk to each other? So I think as like, and you mentioned earlier, like what is the biggest challenge? That's the biggest challenge is you're trying to streamline processes, you're trying to make the user experience great, but then you introduce different softwares and different features and different vendors, and they don't talk to each other. But then we also need to be engaging with the user, and so making sure that all those systems talk to each other, I think, is the biggest issue with data.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest problem. I mean, breaking silos across multiple systems because again, credit unions usually buy shops and not build shops because of being buy shops. So many different versions of the same data, that becomes a challenge. So data governance is important. Yeah, so
Yeah.
I understand. Uh, the next question is talking about building marketing capabilities, right? So when you came to the credit union almost 4 years back, you were building things. Uh, So what marketing capability do you think was hardest to build at TruStone, and why do you think such?
That's a great question. So I think that the hardest thing was probably, so TruStone had just gone through a merger, right? And so it was kind of learning. So Firefly and TruStone had merged together, and it was learning like what is that combined brand together, right? And so kudos to our CEO, kudos to our board. They allowed us to go through a brand study. We did focus groups, and right, you're after a merger, you're not going to go through a rebrand. But how do you evolve that brand, right, and make it engaging? And not that it wasn't engaging, but how do you make it unified? And so I think that is probably the biggest challenge: is what is our tone, right? What is our tone as an organization together? What is our combined tone? Because the tones were different from a branding perspective; they were different. So how do we find that combined tone, but then also an engaging message that's relevant to those members, right?
Yeah, I thought uh, the one that was difficult was obviously, after the post-merger integration, how do you create that brand strategy of the refreshed or the new brand? That was difficult. But I think that's a huge learning for you, right? At a credit union, that's merging with another one, developing that messaging, developing that why the new structure now. That's a phenomenal learning, I believe. So that's great to hear.
Yeah, and
One
right,
last
and listening to your members, like what do the combined membership base want from this credit union? What did they see us as, right? And then reflecting that in what they're going to see from a brand. Um, and then also, as we've talked too, is we had to go through a whole new website rebrand based off of that strategy. And that was a super big challenge. We're all of us are really, really excited at the end product. And the fact that this whole new website, if you go out to our website, we're able to personalize it to that user experience. That was very, very important to us, to be absolutely making sure that that reflected our brand, but then also reflected our promise to our members that we know who you are, right? Like, we want to deliver, we don't want to deliver irrelevant information. We want to deliver what's your next best product or what you're interested in. And so that personalization of the website is such a key piece. And it was a huge lift and a huge challenge. And it took a lot of different departments to lift that up and get it across the finish line. But it was really exciting, and it's exciting to see the end product, and we're only getting better and we're only learning more, which is absolutely fantastic.
That's great to hear. Megan, one last question in the interest of time.
Yeah.
So, if you talk about advice, because we spend so many years, or lack of better words, you've got such deep wisdom doing marketing for credit unions, setting up teams, doing M&As. It's very valuable, right? So, if you want to share some pieces of advice for aspiring marketing leaders in credit unions.
You're very kind to say that, but I love that. Thank you so much for that. But honestly, I am only as good as my team, right? And I love this question because honestly, my 25 years, I would not have the success that I have had without the mentors that I've had, my team. But I think the biggest advice I can give is empower your teammates to. It's very, very hard for marketers to delegate. And once you build that trust with your team to be able to delegate, but then empower them to take risks, to take chances. And I'm not talking about risks, but if they have an idea, let them go with it. Because if it is a success, that's amazing. But if it fails, sometimes we learn more from failures, right? So I think when you can empower your team, they know that you trust in them. That's where the creativity comes, and that's where you're going to stand out amongst the competition, because you're doing stuff outside the box. That's what we need to do as a credit union to get our story told, is that we are the best in the industry. And if we do not stand out and we just look like every other bank, we're not going to tell that story. I singing to the choir, I know, because I've been saying this for how long? Like, how do we get this story out? And nobody knows, right? I brainwashed my kids and they went to kindergarten, like, it's not a bank, it's a credit union. Well, how do we get more people saying that? We get more people saying that by doing things differently, actually caring about our members. But then if you don't empower your employees to go outside the box differently and try different things, you're not going to have success. And that's the biggest advice I give, is build a team based off of their strengths and their talents, but then trust them and empower them to do their best.
Megan, firstly, thank you for taking your time out to spend this with us. That too, so late on Thursday. Really appreciate it. And again, you sharing this piece of advice for my viewers. I mean, I can't be more thankful that you came to the show and talked about your experience, talked about what interesting you're doing at TruStone. So I would like to thank you on behalf of Women of Community Banking family for doing this for us. Thank you again.
Well, and I would like to thank you for doing this for our industry and for women nationwide. I think it's amazing, the work that you're doing.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you.